Welcome to Cash Talk, the podcast where we delve into the depths of finance, business, and life itself. I'm your host, John Cachia, a multi-award-winning wealth advisor with a passion for empowering ambitious Australians to confidently achieve financial freedom. Hey everyone, before we get started, this is a quick reminder that everything in this podcast is of a general nature and nothing has been tailored to your personal circumstances. So please seek personal financial advice before acting on this information. And welcome back to Cash Talk, and today I'm joined by Anthony. Anthony, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Glad to see you back on the chair, mate. I'm feeling good. How's your Roo boys going?
Yeah, could be better, could be worse. Been some improvements, not getting the results that we wanted the last couple of games, but we're getting there.
You still going every game?
I didn't go last night. Thursday night game's too hard during the week, but
Okay.
on the weekends I try to get to as many as I can.
What's your favourite? Like, is it a Sunday midday?
Sunday afternoon's a good game.
Collingwood don't get Sunday afternoon, so I'm just wondering.
We like to play good at Sunday afternoon. That's like our good time slot.
Yeah.
So we get our wins.
It was actually interesting. I was talking about like different sides and how they're kind of tracking, and even though I'm kind of stirring you up a little bit, it's good to see that North have a few youngsters that have got good hope, hopefully to produce that talent in the next few years. But today we're not going to be speaking about footy. Going to be speaking about the new financial year, everyone, because it is now upon us, and there's been some few changes, and we want to kind of discuss what those mean for you, and some of the things that have kind of caught our eye, and some of the things that we want you to consider as well too. And some of the main things we'll start with is some of the changes, maybe, Anth, yeah? First one off the cap of the rank is that everyone just got a 0.5% kind of pay rise in most cases if the employer doesn't package it all together. But we're all getting a 0.5% more in employer contributions, aren't we?
Yeah, it's good to see employer contributions going up to 12% to superannuation, which is nice to see. That's gone up over the last couple of years as well. So back, I remember when it was still 10%, so that's been increasing over the last few years. And
mate, it was 9%. It's been tracking a few times, but yeah, no, it's good to see it up around that 12%. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good to see. It's a nice little pay rise on the side to help grow your retirement fund, which is good to see.
And it is. And like when it first got introduced, it was always supposed to be roughly around these levels. It originally got floated around that 15% mark because we understood that, not we, I'm talking about the people that's kind of set it up, understood that, to get people off the social security system and to be self-funded, they needed about those levels to be able to help self-fund that thing. Now, It's really good, but obviously we'll talk about later the proposed introduction of the Division 296 because that's having a bit of a contrary effect in what's going on. But we'll stick with the other changes as well too. A transfer balance cap up from 1.9 million to 2 million. That means the amount that you can have in like a tax-free pension arrangement. Okay, so anything above that, conditions apply. Let's talk about it that way. But also as well too, there's been no changes to the concessional contribution caps and the non-concessional contribution caps, which still remain at $30,000 for concessional contributions and $120,000 for non-concessional contributions. But one thing that did happen that people maybe didn't get on top of was the unused concessional contribution caps for balances that are less than 500, because it was the 1920 year that kind of got cut off come 1st of July, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that's a really handy tool to be using, is using your catch-up contributions, especially like when you've got a big tax bill coming, like a capital gain event. That's usually the best one where you can use some unused cap space and really save on tax. I've got a client that I'm working on at the moment that looking to save about 60 grand on tax by using some unutilized cap space, and it works fantastically.
Yeah, and obviously you need to take into consideration when you need to access the funds. It's not just they put it in and just save on tax. There's different facets to look at this stuff, and that's why accountants, will say go see your financial advisor, because it's not just a tax play. It's multi-dimensional. We've got to maybe be paying off debts. We need to make sure cash flows are right, but it's a really good tool. But for those that don't really are not across it, if your balance is less than 500,000, you can use up to 5 years prior the unused concessional contributions that you haven't made to be put into 1 year. So they are quite handy tool, and we do often use them since they were introduced. But really, besides that, in regards to changes, there hasn't been many. There's been some floated ideas. One of them, which I was speaking to one of my accountant friends, was around the potential to remove actually the luxury car tax, which is very interesting because luxury car tax, obviously makes it a bit cost prohibitive to buy these luxury cars, but it's being done at a higher level in regards to some of the negotiations with the EU. In regards to, obviously, the EU is going to be a big recipient of if we can remove that luxury car tax to be able to buy those European cars. So that's one. But the big one that people have been, a bit, I'm going to say afraid, but, been talking about in the financial world is this new Division 296. Now, this is very different to the Division 293, okay? Division 293 essentially means that if you're over a certain income level, that you have to pay an additional tax on your income for that financial year. This is different. This is what they call Division 296, that if people aren't aware of it. And what the government is proposing for it to start as of the 1st of July, 2025, okay, and it still hasn't been legislated, and we're recording this into July already, is balances that are above $3 million for them to be taxed at a higher rate, but also, which is the biggest kicker, so not at the normal 15%, at the 30% mark, but also on unrealised gains. And this is where I think most people have the conjecture in regards to what this proposed law is going to affect. I don't think a lot of people are against balances over 3 mil, their earnings being taxed at, say, 30 cents in the dollar. They're more concerned about the unrealised factor. And it's like, if you think about it, like, there's not a lot of balances right now that are over 3 million per individual, let's be honest. Yeah. However, one, they haven't indexed it.
Yeah, that was the other big controversial point, not indexing it, which is, I mean, right now it's probably not a massive issue, but if this keeps going down the line and it still stays in place, it's going to start causing a lot of issues for a lot of people.
And listen, when I first heard it, I was like really concerned that the government didn't say and indexed. But I kind of, in a way, understand the Treasurer on the point that it's like, it's not up for me to index it.
Future people to.
It's for future people to do it. So it's like, hey, listen, we're not going to just apply this automatic index that's embedded in the law for it to be indexed. It's more around, hey, listen, it needs to go to whatever. I'll give you an example. Let's say inflation was running at 7%. Does that mean that the balance goes up to 7%? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there just needs to be a conscious review.
Yeah. And I think if you're doing that, it makes it a bit more, a bit more appealing if it's going to be looked at, rather than say, okay, it's $3 million and that's what it's going to be like forever. But if they're going to be reviewing this every few years, then increasing it, then it's not as, I would say, not as bad for a lot of people, because it's going to be increasing within, like, maybe not indexation, but it's going to be increasing at some sort of level, which would be beneficial.
And the thing is if we look at other taxes like income tax, for example, that's not indexed either. Yeah. Okay. Now, obviously, people are exposed to bracket creep, but you think about when budget comes, there'll be, let's say, the highest marginal tax rate, say 10, 15 years ago, was at 150,000. Now it's at 190,000. And it keeps going up. That's obviously up for the government to kind of change those, and obviously they will be voted in and voted out depending on what happens there. So I'm not really. Let's be honest. I'd like for it to be indexed, but I do understand why it's not.
It'll have the same sort of principle with increasing it, just like income tax brackets.
And then the second bit around it is obviously this unrealised one. That's the one that really gets me, because I don't believe that you should be taxed on assets just based on their value.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, because then even paying that tax, like, are you gonna have to be forced to sell down an asset to be able to pay that tax, or where's that money meant to come from? And it might be, I know you might add another layer of complexity when having a look at your asset allocation. You got to make sure there's enough cash in portfolios to be able to cover tax bills or whatever it may be.
And the worst thing about it is, I think that it just de-incentivizes, if the word, or makes it like it makes it not appealing for you to put money into superannuation. And I'm not saying, hey, listen, everyone needs to have more than $3 million in superannuation. Hey, but I think that from my view, it's like, it's just one of those other changing of the goalposts that is like the biggest issue we have with superannuation is that people are like, oh, the government just changes the goalpost and I don't have access to the money.
Yeah.
And so it's just another one that really causes that, oh, well, they could change it from 3 mil to 1 mil. They could change it from 3 mil to 2 point. Like the Greens have come out and said that they want it to be at 2 mil.
Yeah, and when you start putting like hearing that, it's going to start scaring a lot of people, which then makes it hard. Like superannuation should be something they're trying to promote because at the end of the day, it's going to solve a massive issue with government paying
Social
people
security, the amount of jobs that are created by the funds that are sitting in that pool of money is huge. But the other one as well too is like, imagine they did that for your bank accounts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's a whole big issue with this whole unrealized scenario. Like if they get this through, well, does this then apply to trusts now?
Yeah, what's
does
stopping
this
them
now
from
go to
doing it?
companies? Now, does this go to like, where does this end? Because this is a precedent and to see how much the Australian people are going to tolerate.
Yeah.
Now, like I said to you, the idea in principle, there's some aspects which I can tolerate and there's some aspects which I can probably agree with, but there's a lot that is not right. And like you said before about Anthony, like you're going to have to sell assets, you know, and when that does happen, reality is that the wealthy, and I think it's even the Treasurer said this, is like the wealthy have good advisors. They're going to work their way to kind of get around this, and who are going to be penalised is middle Australia and low income Australia because it's the flow on effect.
Yeah.
You know, it trickles down the impact. Okay, the impact up is less than the impact down, and so I am quite concerned about that. It has not been legislated yet. Like I said, the Greens and Labor hold power in Parliament, so it is very likely that something's going to get through because both of those two want it. But let's see where it lands. Yeah, let's see where it lands. All right. But there was a few other things, Anth. It's also a very common time where people get pay increases adjusted to indexing. There's also time. This is also a time where people reflect. You know, we do it all the time. We blasted out an email to our clients saying, "Hey, listen, really good time to reflect on the last financial year, but move forward into the next financial year." But let's talk about like that person that may have got that pay rise. Yeah, that 3%, 4%, 5%, 10%, whatever it is. What are you saying to that person?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, this is like, it's a really useful tool that you've got, getting this pay rise where, yes, I know there's been this inflation where the cost of living is going up slightly, but we've sort of adjusted to that. Mortgage interest rates coming down, lower mortgage repayment. So people should be, when getting a pay rise, should be getting an increase in their surplus cash flow. And if you can then allocate that to your savings or maybe paying down your debt or something like that instead of actually going to spending, it's going to benefit you heaps. Like if you can do that and then do it consistently, let's say every year when you're getting a pay increase, that money's going to savings or going towards your debt. That's going to make a massive difference because you got to think about it too, especially for mortgage holders. Your income is increasing each year most likely, but your debt levels actually aren't increasing.
It's actually a deflationary thing.
So if you've got that extra surplus cash flow and you say, okay, like, and a lot of people have this problem where they see their home loans and they're not really paying much down in the first couple of years. But if that debt is still staying around that level and you've got more surplus cash flow coming through and you can allocate that to the debt, imagine like you're paid now and in 10 years' time and then that surplus cash flow is all allocated to your debt or to your savings or offset account, whatever it may be. It could make a massive impact.
And it's interesting, Anth, like obviously we do a lot of this for our clients and I see like the timelines in regards to the payment down of loans. And I think the Australian average is now about 28 years to pay off your debt or something like that I read. You know, we're looking at 10, 12
I would say my average, like with the clients that I'm working with at the moment, 10 to 15 years is probably on average what we're looking at to paying down debt. And it's about like things like this as pay increases. Yes, okay, we're gonna allocate some to expenses because expenses are gonna increase. We can't ignore that. But let's say you're allocating out of a pay rise, you're allocating 30% to your expenses. You might add 10% to a little bit extra just to sort of let you have a bit more of an enjoyable life, and then the other 60% going towards your debt or your savings. That's really what you want to try to do.
And it's a valid point that you put. Like, really what I like to do is when a pay rise comes through, I'll probably allocate about 80% of that pay rise towards my financial future. Because remember, I'm already allocating for my lifestyle. I'm already allocating for those. However, there's a lot of effort to get that pay rise. Yeah, there's a lot of work and we appreciate that. So that 20% that I've got left over, I reward myself for that. Yeah, and I'm very much a promoter of what we're trying to do is obviously be financially free. And those are usually 10, 15, 20-year goals that we're trying to achieve. But we need to have that reward along the way. And that's where Anthony's talking about expenses have to increase. Well, I'd probably reframe it from just expenses to actually rewards. You know, hey, you got the pay rise. It was a 10 grand up, let's just say 10 grand, $2,000. What do we want to use that for? Yeah, reward yourself, but put 8 away, because I think what I don't want everyone to do is just grab all their money and put it towards sacrificing. It's got that really strict diet about it, okay? And remember, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
And a lot of people think, like, if you want to be if you want to get on that that journey to building your wealth and that wealth creation journey, that you need to be you need to sacrifice on a lot. Like, that's not always true. Like, yes, you may have to make sacrifices here and there, but we also want to be able to enjoy life as well. And it's not all about like trying to save as much money as we can. Like, I don't think that barely ever happens, because it's about trying to enjoy life as well and just making sure, like you said, reward yourself. You're working hard to get that pay rise. I want to make sure that you're able to, or my clients are able to then utilize that money to enjoy life as well, but also making the right decisions for their financial future.
Yeah. And like when you talk about it in actual like outcomes, you know, you might do like what I said and your debt gets paid off maybe 2 years later. Yeah. Over time, over like a 16-year, 17-year period. But you've been more fulfilled.
100%, and that's probably the biggest thing. Is it's more about the opportunity cost, and that's why we discuss a lot. Like, would you rather be able to go on a holiday every second year and pay your debt off 3 years earlier, or would you be happy to push that out to every 3-year holiday and then you pay your debt off 3 years earlier? Like, and as long as you're like, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's what life do you want to live? Do you mind going like sacrificing on holidays, or do you rather sacrifice on how long you've got the debt? And as long as you're comfortable with that, that's the right answer at the end of the day.
Well, it was interesting, Anth, because I was speaking to a new client to just come on board, and we were just having a bit of a chat, and she was like, "Oh, John, I'm scared to tell you about the life I want." And I'm like, "No, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm here to understand this, you know, the conversation that you might have with your partner and haven't shared with anyone else. Like, what do you want?" And she was really apprehensive to like tell me. And anyway, we got to the gist of it, and she's like, "I want to be able to kind of cut back my days. I want to be able to go to Europe every year. That's what I want to do." And I said to her, I said, like, I am not here to tell you what is impossible. Okay, I'm not here to tell you you can't achieve that. I'm here to tell you what you need to do to make that happen. And you could see, as soon as that happened, this woman, it was like the young kid that was dreaming again. Yeah, it was around, hey, listen, okay, that sounds amazing. Well, what do I need to do to make that happen? And that's key. You know, it's key to going like, especially right now when we're talking about this new financial year, is around, okay, well, you know, what if I have been doing? But ultimately, what do I want to do? And am I piss farting around, or do I actually want to have it done? And don't dream small, dream big. Yeah, it's like, what do I ultimately want? Because you don't want to rock up 10 years from now going, oh, you know what? This isn't the life I always wanted. Yeah. And so this person, she was absolutely blown away by obviously, you know, what we were kind of able to uncover with her. And the reality is yes, she doesn't need to go to Europe every year, but that's what she wants to do. And there's going to be trade-offs that she needs to make that happen. For example, she might be working 3 days a week now. Well, to make it happen, she needs to work 4 days a week. Is working 3 days more important than going to Europe? And like, that's what you were talking about before. Like, which one would you rather? is there an ability for you to maybe, I know you want to upgrade your car every 3 years, but is the car more important than Europe?
And it's like that's like nothing's impossible. It's just how much do you want it and what work are you willing to put in to make it happen.
Yeah.
Because I have this conversation, whether it's people buying houses or being able to retire early, like that's fine. This is what you need to do to make it happen. Would you want to put in the hard work to make it happen, or would you rather sacrifice on that end goal? Or like it's always in your hands. It's like, yes, you need to get that right advice and guidance to figure out what you need to do. And then it's a matter of you executing it to find out, okay, do I want this or do I want that?
And I think, and like the other thing as well too is just, there's a lot of people that are probably watching this and going like, oh yeah, but I can't earn the money to live the dream life. Like, be honest with yourself. Like, have you sat down and kind of mapped out what you need to do to earn the income that you want? And then not just mapped it out, but then created the plan and the execution of that plan to make that happen. It's like someone might be on 100 grand and be like, I need to earn 200. Step it out. Write it down. They say, the probability of getting to that dream just by simply writing it out, I think is like, 50% more just by writing out. I might be undercooking it there. But then like, if you need to go from 100 to 200, what needs to happen? Now, that change might be significant. Might be you need to upskill yourself. You might be a draftsman, for example, and need to become an architect, and that's a 4-year plan to become an architect. But you have two options. You either say no, and then you're stuck in your role, and then you might get those increases, or you take the plunge, do the after hours, do the weekends, do the whatever you need to do, and then within that 4 years, you've increased your income. And I think that's the difference with the successful people in regards to achievement of goals. It's not just something on a piece of paper; it's the action plan that sits behind it.
And we're not saying it's an easy thing to do. No. Like in some cases, it might be very hard, but. And it might not, and it's not going to happen overnight either. Like you said, it might be a 4-year plan, but if you know, okay, I need to do this, you might need to do additional courses, you might need to do additional
start a business,
study, whatever it may be. But okay, if this is what we want to do, these are the steps we need to take, and if that's what we're going to do, then we do it. But without hard work and without dedication, it's not going to happen. So sometimes people wait around and wait for things to happen, but it's really about taking the action and making. You if you want something, you've got to make it happen.
Do you have any goals this financial year, Anth? Like yourself? Obviously, I know you're getting married this year.
Yeah, so. I've got a couple of things that I want to try tick off. Obviously the wedding early next year, so that's a big one. And then having a look at what holidays look like for the next couple of years, starting family in the next few years. They're all things that are on the radar and just sort of planning for.
Any PBs on the bench press or something? Or?
No, I haven't set any gym goals just yet. Okay. But I've been trying to focus on the bigger ones first, and then I'll work my way down.
Yeah, and I know that you're very like process driven and you're very like goal orientated and stuff like that. How do you feel like when you're ticking off those goals? Like, how does that make you?
It's really satisfying because like. Maybe at the start you might have had doubts about the goals and if you can actually do them, but then as you get closer and you tick them off, it's like, okay, it's motivating. Like, all right, we've been able to do this. This was my savings goal. Once I have this as my savings, and I can, I don't know, go on a holiday or purchase a car, whatever that goal may be. But having that target, and I like to think about it like what I like to do for myself is if I want to go on a holiday or let's say purchase a car, I want to say, okay, this is how much I want in savings. When I make that happen, then I can have a look at making that goal happen. So it's motivating me to say, okay, this is what I need to save to make it happen. Sometimes I might need to say no to doing certain things so it can happen sooner. But then at the same time, I might say, okay, do I rather go on this smaller holiday and then push out that bigger holiday because I'm going to be using some of that money and then figuring out what I want to do more. So...
And how's it for your fiance? Like, does she like obviously where I'm trying to go with this is that I really found from my relationship with my wife, like goals for me were really good, but having like a goal that we can both achieve feels amazing. Yeah. How's your fiance with that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes she doesn't always like waiting for certain things, but like. She works with me through it. We set the targets about what we want to do. Like for an example, holiday. She loves going on holiday. So okay, what do we need to do to be able to go on this holiday? And then the wedding was also a big one. Like,
and also the buying of the house has been like things that you've done together, which has been really really good. And like obviously there's two different individuals coming to together. And where we're going with this is that I speak about this often is, his fiance's got one kind of upbringing, Anthony's got another upbringing. And these upbringings are causing the mindset to be in particular ways. And as you're forming into this relationship, you got maybe like two different magnets pulling into one direction. But what's really amazing is when they're both like aligned, and it's a beautiful word that I say aligned, you can then, when you're achieving these goals together, it's like, I don't know, winning by myself or winning as a team. Like the winning of the team feels better. It's like in football, which we were talking about at the start. It's like, would you rather a Brownlow or would you rather or a Dally M or would you rather a premiership? You'll take the premiership. You know what I mean? Would you rather in the soccer world the Ballon d'Or? Would you rather the Champions League or you'll take the Champions League? So where I was going with this is like in your short period of time in the whole scheme of things, you guys must be proud on the goals achievement that you've done.
Yeah, for sure. And like, if one person's not pulling their weight in it, like let's for an example, the wedding. Like we've got a wedding account, we're both contributing to it. But let's say one of us is spending more money elsewhere and we don't have enough money to put in that wedding fund, then it's going to bring us both down. So just working as a team together, hitting those targets, and obviously we've set goals on a fortnightly basis and of a yearly basis of how much we want to be allocating to certain accounts. And if we're both doing it together, we know it's going to work. But if one of us start lacking, then we're going to let us both down. And you don't want to let the other person down either. So you want to do what you can to make sure you're achieving that goal for both you and the other person.
Yeah, and this is joint fulfillment as well too. I think that like a lot of people where maybe one person is leading the charge and not bringing the other person. And, in a relationship, especially like a married one, there's sometimes where people will say, oh, I want to do this by myself. Does my wife need to be there? Or for example, I'm just like, no, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Like you're either both together or we're not at your advisors. Go see someone else who may be doing that. But if you're going to do the right advice, do it together because this alignment is beautiful. And I think, people need a plan. Yeah. And ultimately, yes, we handle people's finances, but ultimately it's to enable the life that they want. And really it's a life plan. And the money is just a vehicle to make that happen. So, great time of the year to plan. And maybe some passing one or two tips to kind of round us out. Yeah. You're obviously seeing the landscape, you're seeing what's going on. Interest rates are coming down, or have come down. There's all expectations that even next meeting is from the RBA is going to be another cut. What are you saying to people right now? Do I invest? Do I put money in my debt? Do I go see a financial advisor? Do I blow all my money? What are you saying at the barbecue to people right now?
Yeah, so like the big one with interest rates is you don't want to let that money leak out. Like yes, repayments are going down, but let's say it's $100 a month. You don't want to just let that $100 a month then go to expenses. You either want to be saving it and allocating it into account, or you leave those repayments as is so you're not losing that money. That's probably the biggest one. And it's very similar to the pay rise situation. If you're used to earning that pay rise and you're used to earning that income and you get the pay rise, don't let that income leak. Allocate it to something that's going to help you in the future. Like you said, if you want to reward yourself 20% of that or with 30%, whatever it may be, reward yourself, but then put the rest of it away. Another one is, like you said, do you invest? Do you put money into your debt? It's a bit of a tricky one. It's going to be different for everyone depending on your situation, but it really comes down to where you are in life, but also your goals. Yeah. Hey, do you have any big expenses coming up in the next couple of years that you need a plan for? I don't know. Is your debt a manageable level? Or were you struggling? Do you need to start chipping down on that? How are your cash buffers? So that comes to the next point you said about seeing a financial advisor. Like, I think seeing a financial advisor or at least having that conversation about it is for everyone. It may not be, you might find out at the end that it may not be for you, but unless you actually go and have a chat to someone, you're never going to know. And often people might not think they need an advisor, but after that initial conversation and you say, okay, well, I've never thought about this, and it's going to open up a whole different thought in your mind that, okay, that I've never thought about and how I'm meant to know these things.
It was interesting, Ed. I had my wife's friend that she grew up with reach out to my wife and say, "Oh, listen, hey, does John review Super?" And she was like, "Hey, John, what do I say to this guy that I knew for like ages ago?" I'm like, yeah, "Kinda, but jump on a phone call with John," and that's what she did. She's like, "Hey, maybe it's best for you to speak to John." Anyway, jumped on the call. Within about 3 seconds, by the soon as he told me his details, besides the how high, I realised that the superannuation was not going to change his life. Yeah. There was, they've just had a kid, wife's on mat leave, he's the main supporter, she's returning back to work soon, they've got like this investment property thing, and this just opened up a can of worms. And within 3 seconds I could identify, probably within 2 minutes, he was just like, oh yeah, wow. And I was like, okay, I need to come meet with you guys. And it's a very, very common one where, it's only normal. Like, hey, I've got superannuation. Is it the right one? Should I see a financial advisor? Great. If that's the entry point in your mind where you need to see someone, or it's another entry point is we want to get ahead, but I don't know which way to do it, or I have too many different options. Which way do I do? Or my tax bill's huge. Like, whatever's the scenario when it comes to your money, I think you're right in regards to seeing someone. I think another one as well too is just from my perspective is starting to invest as early as possible is crucial. And I'm not talking about grabbing $50, $100, $5 million, whatever, and putting it in. I'm not talking about that. Like, starting small and learning about how it works and creating it a part of your system.
Yeah, I think what you hit the learning about how it works is probably the biggest one, because it's not about what you start with. If you can do it on an ongoing basis and be consistent with the plan, that is the game changer. It's about the consistency, which is really going to make things happen. And even if you just have a look at the power of compounding interest, I used to just play with a compound interest calculator just for fun, just to understand how it works and figure, okay, if we did this, if we started with more or did a longer time period or did a higher amount consistently, what works out best. And it's really crazy to see the power of the biggest one is time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter about all the variables. Time is the biggest one.
Yeah, make time your best friend, not your worst enemy.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Ant, like you said, and I always like to use kind of other industries, but if you use the health industry, for example, if you want to lose weight and let's say you're having a block of chocolate every night, let's say rather than having a block of chocolate every night, you reduce that to half a block of chocolate. And then over time, you reduce it to one line of chocolate. Then you get me what I mean? If you can get into that momentum of cutting over time. And obviously we're talking on the other side here in regards to accumulation. If you need to bring more water in, for someone that doesn't drink a lot of water, going from no water to 3 liters of water is a big feat. So, you speak to anyone like a nutritionist or a dietitian or whatever, they'll say to you let's just start with 600 mils. Just drink a 600 ml bottle of water. Then from 600 mils, let's go. Same effect. Go to the gym. Same effect. Go grab what this guy's benching if you haven't benched before and you rip your pecs off. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say to you is that you go in there, you put your 5 kilos on either side, start with that, then go to 7.5, then go to 10, build yourself up consistently. And it's just getting to the gym, doing the exercise, getting to the gym, lifting a little bit more, getting to the gym. And then before you know it, you now start to get used to it. It becomes a habit. You don't go from the person, I was speaking about this on a previous podcast, is around you go from the person that wants to invest to the investor.
Yeah, I'll before we finish, I'll leave this on a really good client a success story that I actually met with this week, because it was the same situation. This person come to me, just heaps of debt, credit cards, personal loans, investment property loan, and had no savings buffer, no investments, no money in super. Within the last 3 years, they have we were reflecting in the meeting and said, if I was to tell you were going to be in this position in 3 years' time, would you believe it? And he said, no chance in hell. He's gone from drowning in debt to having a savings buffer that he's never had before in his life, paying down all the consumer debt that he previously had, and is now investing consistently. We started investing a small amount, and now we're up to investing a significant amount each month, building up his superannuation, and it's been a really great success where he's in a situation that he never thought he would be in.
Mate, that story, I know it, and that's an amazing journey. For that guy, he screams our name from the rooftop, let's be honest. And it's really, really humbling to see where he came from, where he is now, and how he's forming these new habits, and now he's building the momentum. And once you get into that momentum, that's where the real game changer happens. And so, great story to finish on. But for everyone, this time of the year, really good to reflect on your past year. even your past years. See what you've done well. See what you're not doing so well. Draw a line in the sand. This is a fresh financial year, and set yourself up properly, okay? And look in the mirror properly and say, well, what am I doing well? What do I need to improve? And dream big and make those plans come to life. Hopefully you're enjoying these podcasts. If you're loving these, make sure you like and subscribe on all the major channels and share them to your friends and family as well too, or everyone you love. Until next time, thank you very much, and thanks for jumping on.
Thanks, guys. Bye.